topic of the night, guys.
Here we go.
We're talking about Mickey 17. We all went and saw this in theaters. So, 3 of us saw it together. 2 of us saw it separately. This movie was, to be brief, insane. This movie was insane. But let's jump into it, guys. I don't know. Should we summarize the plot a little bit? I feel like Jake, you could kind of do that real quickly for us, and then we'll jump into our thoughts.
Yeah, it's really pretty simple. I mean, there's different colonies of people leaving for different planets, and they need workers who are expendable to help maintain their ships as they travel to these planets. And so this guy on the run signs up to be one of them. He doesn't realize that to be expendable means they clone him. He dies doing a job. They reprint him. He dies doing a job. They reprint him. It's just a awful cycle. And obviously the name of the movie, he's on his 17th iteration by the time we meet him. And yeah, they're heading for this mysterious ice planet, and it's pretty much about the people on the ship as they are thinking about settling on this ice planet, trying to figure out if it's safe or not, when all of a sudden there's another clone made when the 17th Mickey hasn't died.
Got 2 Mickeys.
So all sorts of 2 Mickeys, all sorts of shenanigans. These 2 clones try to fight for their lives and try to say, I'm the guy. No, I'm the guy. All while they're trying to figure out if it's safe to live on that planet.
Yeah. Before we get into our thoughts, like there's a lot, but really I was thinking like, Log, you're kind of a marketing guy. The marketing on this movie, how did you feel about it?
What marketing? To be honest, I didn't really hear anything about it. Like, I didn't know what it was about. Like, I went into this movie like not seeing very many ads or even trailers for it.
Yeah.
Or like, I really had no idea what this was about going into it. So
that was one of my gripes. I felt like watching the trailer, it was going to be like an action adventure sci-fi type of movie, and it was less interested in that kind of thing. It was more about the
drama,
moral and drama that goes on. So,
but let's get. This is Bong Joon-ho's new movie, obviously coming off of Parasite, another Oscar-winning movie, right? Is that true? Oscar-winning, right? Yeah. Crazy. And this is what he chooses to do, which I like that it's an original idea. Mickey 17. You got Robert Pattinson in our lead. You've got Stephen Young as his like buddy, who's also like a drug dealer. It's like, what? This side plot was very interesting. But
I got pros and cons with it.
Jump into it, Wade.
Biggest thing is I loved the premise. A lot of original ideas. They're pretty intriguing. I like the moral questions that were asked about the cloning. And, I love the beginning, the fact that it's like each iteration of the clone is helping them progress to like get a vaccine so that they can survive on the planet. Those kind of things were really interesting to me. And, I love the alien species, actually. I thought they were kind of interesting. And the artsy part, like the red button thing, the more I thought about it, the more I understood it and kind of liked it, like his past trauma. And now he has to hit the red button to destroy the cloning, all that kind of thing. But yeah, there were some negatives though too.
There's a lot of side plots for some reason that don't
let it rip, Wade, because this is a weird movie.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
Micah, you back?
There he is. Clap.
Your audio was off.
Yeah.
Okay, he's on.
Sorry, dude. Micah, yeah. How'd you feel about it?
Good. I don't know what I missed there.
I just gave what I liked about it. So
okay, I already heard that. Then
feel free to give some opinions on what you think.
So with the marketing thing, I just want to jump on that a little bit. I think the studio kind of knew that this movie had questionable commercial prospects because they already delayed it a year. So I think the studio kind of knew like this movie's not going to do great. So they didn't want to put a ton into it if they thought we're not going to get a lot out of it. The reported production budget is about $118 million, and it's grossed at the box office $92 million, which is not good. And you got to think that the theaters take about half of that. So they really earned about $46 million back on their $118 million investment. That's not good business.
It's a bomb.
That's too bad.
Definition of a bomb.
Yes.
Okay, one
that's-
thing they could have done to fix that, that's my first issue, is the gratuitous language and sex that they had in it. I think it easily, if you leave all that out, you make it a PG-13 movie, maybe one F-bomb. I think you could have had a much wider audience and that kind of thing. So,
Sadly,
'cause,
that's
like,
a lot of movies, though.
Yeah, when you just dump a bunch of F-bombs in that, to me, it's uncreative because it's just like, okay, here we go again with another F-bomb,
Sex
And
scene.
by the nature of that too, it takes it up that rating level to R, and that you're right. That makes the idea of being able to share the movie or recommend the movie, that cuts a ton of audience out. I mean, just on the fact that they won't let somebody in, like if you're right, Wade, if there was less of that content in there, and the movie is still the same, you can take a 15-year-old to see it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a blockbuster that's like, sorry, it feels like a small movie disguised as a blockbuster. You know what I'm saying? It's just like
Ooh,
kind of like
good take,
tricking the
yeah.
audience. It looks beautiful. The movie looks awesome. You know what I mean? Like the CGI is incredible. Like the ship stuff. I think all of that looks so good. I mean, Bong Joon-ho, obviously, he's done a lot of really cool stuff. I think I love the CGI. I don't know. That's another pro as well. But yeah, I think it has a lot of side plot that doesn't like it's for the sake of the art almost. You know what I mean? It's less worried about like tying up the loose ends, which is fine with certain movies.
Well, dude, and that middle was so chaotic to me. It just I couldn't. They would like start at something and then jump to something else, and it was so weird. Usually, like, and then the other thing was like, what the heck was the jelly about? The
tail
sauce.
Jelly?
What
the
was
sauce.
that?
We do need to break out like Mark.
You guys want a new
character,
sauce? Yeah.
His wife.
Yeah, what was that?
How'd you guys feel about the leaders of all this? They're like
in
charge of the ship.
I think it just showed like how like some leaders are just like they're just like evil. Like they had like a whole people to care about, and like she was just worried about making a sauce because the one throwaway line at the beginning, it was like, "This, you made terrible sauce." So then all of a sudden she's like only worried about this thing.
Interesting.
So that just goes. It's just like trying to show that these are like evil. Like they're not meant to be like good leaders. They don't care about the people. They care about sauce.
It's funny when your villain is also your comic relief. That's a pretty unique combo of character traits.
I thought it was interesting. It seemed like Ruffalo was doing like a Trump impression a little bit. And
sure.
It was interesting. It was interesting that you think back to the timing. This movie was supposed to be released last year, so they were referring to Ruffalo's character as a guy that had lost 2 elections in a row.
Yeah.
Wonder if they know what they know now, if they still would have framed it that way.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting.
But there's a lot of positives. I mean, I thought the aliens were cool. Somehow they know who Mickey is. They know the people's names.
That was an irritating thing they never touched on again. I was like, I wanted to know more about the alien intelligence and like how do they know Mickey? But they just say secret and it's never touched on again.
That's so funny to me.
That kind of thing makes Jacob laugh hysterically, and I'm like frustrated. I'm like, you're wanting more.
Yeah. But the end wraps up on a bow. You get Mickey and his girlfriend. The girlfriend becomes the new leader. Mickey doesn't have to die. Mickey 18 sacrifices himself, killing Mark Ruffalo, stopping this war with the what do they call them? The creepers.
Yeah,
with the creepers. So yeah, I mean, very interesting. Jake, I want to hear your thoughts on it. Your positives, your negatives.
I don't have very many negatives, guys. I loved this movie. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. I like Bong Joon-ho. It was a lot like Snowpiercer. I don't know if you've ever seen Snowpiercer.
I have seen Snowpiercer. Yes.
Yeah, that's another kind of hard sci-fi movie with a sharp satire of classism as well. And so that it reminded me a lot of that, and it was cold, so it felt kind of like a spiritual successor to Snowpiercer, which was cool. Look, guys, I like weird movies, okay? And you are hitting the nail on the head when this is a small, weird indie art house movie parading as a blockbuster.
Yeah.
It has no interest in trying to make people trying to make people line up at the theater to go see it, obviously because they're not. And I'm not sure I really blame them. This is not a type of movie for everybody, but I don't know. I was laughing. I loved the acting. Robert Pattinson is incredible. Being able to change his voice so easily is just that's a talent. I mean, that's
very
give me
good.
that. Yeah.
That
Very
is
good
true
linguist.
talent.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell the different personalities between the two. He does the Batman voice. Did you kind of catch that too?
I totally caught that when for 18, the first time he talked, I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, it's just Batman.
Wow,
I guess you can
that's
only
so
have so many.
It is cool though because he does play those two different characters, and like as you know, as the movie goes on, they're so distinct, and yet you're rooting for both of them at the same time, which does just kind of speak to his like magnetism, I guess, that you're kind of rooting for him, even though they're even fighting with each other.
Yeah. He's
I'm a
definitely
big- I'm a big fan of movies where the weird creatures are kind of the good guys. So that really just made me kind of happy. I loved the creepers. I thought they were really cool. I don't know. It hit everything I kind of look for in a weird movie, and I wish they. I don't think it's the kind of thing you can market easy. That's why Log's right. They didn't. And it's not the kind of thing you can get butts in seats to see because it's weird. I like that it found me, but it's not going to resonate with many people. It's a weird movie, and I don't think I would recommend it to many people either, because they'd probably call me crazy.
Yeah, Jacob, about halfway through, Cam leans over to me in the theater and is like, how are we going to pod about this?
Yeah, it's like, how are we going to talk about this?
Yeah,
but there's a lot to talk about.
You can definitely tell it was based on a book because the middle of the movie really does meander a bit throughout their ship. There's a lot of, like you guys are saying, non sequiturs and subplots that kind of don't go anywhere. I kind of liked it because it felt kind of lived in that whole, these people have been on a ship for years. Of course, there's just going to be weird nothings. But, when the movie's approaching 2.5 hours, do you cut some of those subplots? Maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really loved it. But boy, what a weird movie.
Let's get into some of the side plots that didn't go anywhere. I think one of them is got to be like the other girl, the second girl, who's just like, I want Mickey 18. Let's trade. I want,
and then that's it.
That's never talked about again. Which
that's it.
Honestly, I was thankful for because that was going to get really weird really fast.
What are some other side plots that just never went anywhere? I'm trying to think.
Obviously, the whole sauce
So
thing plays into the reason they want to kill the creepers, but really they don't expand on why. I mean, sure, it was just because she was spurned about the sauce in the beginning, but
yeah,
it was such an odd motivation. Like I was laughing about the creepers too. It makes me laugh, but it really is not that important. The villains could have just been like, no, we want to take him out because we want to live here, and it would have served the same narrative purpose.
I'm trying to think. Is there any other? There's like the nightmare where I thought it was the plot. I was very confused by the nightmare
at the end.
Yeah, the whole ending was a little like, because they kind of closed down the Friends storyline of like, they caught him, but he got off because and then it's like, we'll just wrap that one up. And then it's like, here's this dream sequence that isn't very clear that it's a dream sequence.
Mark Ruffalo being reprinted by the wife. And then she's got a bucket of sauce, which is actually like blood. And she's like, taste it. And he's like, no, I don't want to. And she's like, why don't you want to taste it? Oh, never mind. You're the worst anyway. You're terrible. It's like, what is this?
It would have made more sense if he had dreams throughout the movie, but that was the only dream in the whole movie. It's the very end, which is really random.
I'm just having crazy dreams these days. That's all it said. It's like, what?
Oh, it's so funny.
I didn't know
it was
that
interesting.
Was kind of
I thought it was interesting too how like his girlfriend is like sort of supposed to be like the moral character, like she's standing up for the aliens, but then kind of throughout the movie it's like showing her kind of abusing her power like on the ship as the security guard.
Like I thought she was trying to be kind of,
she was all over the place.
evil.
I think that was kind of the point. She's a ridiculous person.
we haven't even talked about Stephen Young. Like his character is so random. The very beginning, the reason why Mickey has to get on the ship is because Stephen Young has gotten him into this terrible situation.
Robert
with loan
Pattinson just wanted to
sharks.
make macarons.
Yeah, he just wanted to make macaroons.
And Stephen Young was like, "Yeah, and we borrowed from a loan shark."
Yeah,
I love his shirt. Like macaroons are not a sin or whatever. It's like what? And then,
So
like
silly.
throughout the thing, I guess Stephen Young becomes a pilot. Gets on the same ship. He's still kind of bad. He's like dealing drugs on the ship, but the loan shark is still after him on the space explorations. The exploration 4 years in.
And then somehow he ends up killing the guy who's like massive that comes after him. Which is just
dude, he's got Glenn in his blood. So from Walking Dead, who survived a lot of crazy things.
I did think his character was funny, like the beginning where it's like, "Hey, Mickey, what?" Like he's like, "Oh man, I'm just gonna let you die." Like when they're on the ice planet. I thought that was funny. Like there's some funny stuff with this movie. Honestly, like I was laughing at the beginning.
No, I was laughing too. It was like the perfect mix of comedy with interesting sci-fi at the beginning.
Yeah, I don't know.
I have an interesting take. I went to this movie with some friends from work, and I work in like a cubicle area, just like big flat space cubicle, and I worked with my buddy I went to this movie with my buddy who works right next to me. He's been there for a couple of years at my job, and he goes in and he comes out. He's like, "I loved this movie because it was too relatable." He's like, "Mickey is me." He's like, "Every day I go to work and I do meaningless tasks, and then I wake up in the morning and I do meaningless tasks again. And it's like, I'm just this expendable guy. Anybody else could do this work, but I'm the one that has to do it." He's like, "The cloning chamber is my cubicle."
Oh no!
What?
Dude, you got to stay away from this guy.
Yeah,
I'm going to see movies with this guy.
Man, it was just funny that he just compared. He's just like, "I am Mickey."
That's funny.
Oh man.
Am I missing anything on this movie, guys? Is there any other side plots I'm missing?
One sad thing to me is just like the way like kind of the writing was like, Mickey keeps being asked, what does it feel like to die? And usually he's like doesn't answer, but then finally he does answer, and his answer is like depressing to me. Because
it's scary.
Like,
I'm scared.
Yeah, exactly. Without like any kind of hope. And they imply that each Mickey had their own personality, so they really were dying, and the one reprinted is not necessarily the same person.
Yeah.
So it's like they're afraid to die, yeah, because they have the same memories, but they're without any kind of hope. I don't know. It's
they're not actually
kind of a sad
person.
part of the plot mindset, I guess.
Another thing that my friend who loved it took away was he's like, since there is 17 and then 18 Mickeys. What he kind of took away was like each Mickey is like a year of his life. So like as like you're 17 and you turn 18, the reason why number 18 was so like confident in himself is because he's like becoming that like into adult, and he's like caring more about how people see him, and he's taking more charge over his life. Which is an interesting take. I did not take that from the movie, but
that's even a little too English teacher.
It's a little
for
bit of a
me.
stretch.
I don't
That's
know.
English
yeah,
teacher.
taken away from that.
That's okay. I think that's a stretch. 17 and 18-year-olds are pretty similar.
I think the movie for me too is interesting in that it showed like the leadership and how like out of touch they are, and like they're these politicians and they're eating this good food while everyone else is eating kind of this, terrible food. But then it like again troubles with the ending where it's kind of like, yeah, and then the girlfriend rises through the ranks and becomes powerful, and then there's the planet is green and everything works, and it almost seemed like to contradict the message of the first half of the movie in a way of like the power is the problem.
Interesting.
I don't know. And that's I feel like my struggle with the whole movie. It's like I don't really. The point of it, there's no sharp point on like this is what you're supposed to take from it. It seems like it starts down a path and then it turns and it's saying something else and it's focusing on something else, and it's just I don't know what you're supposed to I have a theory on what you're supposed to take, but I don't know what exactly they wanted us to.
It's a little convoluted, for sure.
Jacob, can you explain the whole red button thing? Like, I think I have an understanding, but you know what I'm talking about, like with the car and it like he's apparently pressed the red button,
Killed his
and,
mom,
and
apparently.
that killed his mom in the car. But he talks to himself later and is like, that's not how it happened or whatever. But then I guess at the end he's pressing the red button to blow up the
cloning machine,
and he like struggles to do it at first.
Yeah, I haven't really actually thought much about that. That actually is a subplot that it does seem kind of out there. I actually forgot about it until you brought it up right now, Wade.
Maybe it's like
but I remember.
Sorry, Jake. Continue.
No, I remember thinking during the movie, like I think it was just used to kind of show the differences between the two Mickeys. Like, he's like, oh, I'm such an idiot. I killed my mom. I got her killed. I'm ridiculous. And then the next Mickey's like, you didn't, right? Like, why are you hung up on that? And I think it was just kind of showing the difference between them, and maybe why 17 is the way he is. He's pretty unique, I think. And that's why we're following him as a character. I didn't put together that he presses the red button at the end to destroy the cloning machine. I think that's pretty cool, but I haven't thought too much into it. But
maybe
I'm sure you could English to that one too.
Yeah, so maybe I'm thinking too much about it.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it kind of connects with what Logan's saying, like his childhood understanding was that, like, hey, I pressed the red button and we got in a car accident, so therefore it's my fault that my mom died. When really they're not related. You know what I'm saying? That was his like childhood understanding. But now he's 17, turning 18, and he's understanding, hey, it's not my fault. You know what I mean? Like, my mom dying is not my fault. I don't know. Maybe that's kind of crazy. I have no clue.
It's hard to know if that's like thinking too much into it or if that's exactly what was trying to be said, So
Bong Joon-ho. Which also, that's another thing. I know he doesn't really speak English that well. So, like, Jacob, do you know how does he direct, like, English-speaking movies? That's something I've always thought about. It's like, that's crazy.
He might have a translator on set. I've never really thought about it.
Yes,
either.
yeah. How does he enjoy his movies, though? Like, they're not in his own language. I don't know. It's kind of crazy.
Snowpiercer was very much, I think, like, only maybe 30% of it was in Korean. The rest was in English, but it felt like a very natural blend. I mean, there were two Korean movie stars who were two of the main characters in the movie. And this one felt really 100% like a Hollywood style production. Because some of his other movies I've seen, like Parasite or Memories of Murder, are 100% Korean. They take place in South Korea. The entire thing is in Korean. And then Snowpiercer very much feels like a blend. Some scenes are in Korean with those characters, some scenes are in English. And so that felt kind of like a natural extension to me. But yeah, I wonder. I guess I don't know well enough to speak on what that process is like, but yeah, it's probably interesting.
I also had one other thought. I've seen a little bit of some like anime and like even like The Boy and the Heron, which this kind of reminded me of like some sort of like anime almost, where it's like they introduce stuff and sometimes it doesn't really matter to the plot, and it's kind of like get over the messiness of it, like in some anime it's kind of like that, where it's like there's some mystery, you're not really going to understand everything. Jake, would you agree with that at all with this movie? I don't know.
In all of Asian cinema, there's usually some sort of non sequitur like that. I don't know if you've seen Parasite, but in Parasite, there's the rock that the family has, and that's such a big thematic thing, and yet it doesn't come into play much until the end. And even then, it's just kind of like, well, it was just a rock, I guess, and so yeah, I think that's a different kind of style, just a different way.
Yeah, it leaves a lot open to like interpretation, know. And if you're not, like me, I don't go in thinking of how it's going to end or whatever. Like I kind of just want a plot, with don't branch off too much, keep it
sequences. You want
keep
things
it in
to
a
be
good
paid
sequence,
off.
but yeah.
There's a reason for the mystery. It's not just there for no reason. Yeah. All right, guys. The moral of the story. Log and Micah, both our guests, have a moral of the story. Log, what's the moral of the story for today, for Mickey 17?
The moral of Mickey 17 is you can't punish yourself for something that happened in your past. Because yes.
That's great. I think that's true.
Yeah. Just because he thinks he killed his mom, and so the whole point is he is okay with being an expendable because he thinks he deserves it. And by the end of the movie, he realizes that he's not just an expendable. You know,
Yeah,
he doesn't actually deserve it.
Yeah, Micah, you said you had a moral of the story too.
We should have ended with his. His is much more profound. What I took away from it was I'm signing all these I accept terms and conditions, and I should be reading more of this fine print because he's signing up for that loan. He's not realizing he's the only one on it. They should have had a closer detail on the payback period. You know, is there bankruptcy, some kind of arbitration if things don't go right? Signing on to that job. Did you read the fine print? Yeah, I read it. You didn't read it. If you had read it, all these problems go away. So read those terms and conditions.
That's true.
That was the only clean point that I got from the whole movie.
Guys, any final thoughts? Mickey 17. It's out there for the world.
You ever use a printer, especially a low-end printer, and it puts the paper out and then takes it back in a bit and then continues putting it out? That was so funny when that's what they did with the bodies when they were printing them.
Yeah.
They used that. They played that for laughs, I think, like maybe 4 times. And it got me every time. It was so funny.
That's hilarious, dude.
If you're an average viewer, I would not watch Mickey 17. We'll say that.
Yeah. All right, guys. We did it. Peace out.